outlets, including tuck and spaza shops in the Region G municipality in Johannesburg, says some of the requirements for the registration of their businesses are complicated for residents of informal settlements. Residents have continued to queue in different municipal offices to register their businesses. Today is the deadline for the registration. In November last year, President Cyril Ramaphosa had given a directive for the registration of businesses in response to issue of food safety. Chairperson of the businesses in the municipality, Tshepo Mogele, says shop owners are required to provide title deeds, which many of them do not have.
Remember, those people are not having title deeds. And then when you go to city bylaws, they want the title, so many things, in fact. They were supposed to, at least for the informal people settlement, it's a second category to say, when you are from informal, have these documents, because you don't have title deeds, we haven't given you the right land for yourself to operate.
Meanwhile, that eThekwini municipality in KwaZulu-Natal says all 5 of its business registration offices are packed. Deputy Chairperson of Mayoral Committee on Economic Development, P. Lindlovu, says they have approved 1,400 of the 6,000 applications they have received so far.
But we have tried by all means to make the registration process very simple, very easy. Hence, I think even in some areas, we're actually just taking our guys and going to the area. It's not really difficult. If you have all the required documents, then, and it's not even an expensive process, I think as we explained more, that's when you started getting the numbers increased, because I just think it was a fear of unknown, but it's not a difficult process. It does not even take long.
The Unemployment Insurance Fund forked out about 57 billion rand in fraudulent payments to government employees during the COVID-19 pandemic. That's according to the Special Investigating Unit, which probed the operations of the Temporary Employee Relief Scheme. The SIU briefed Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts on the status of the Employment and Labour Department, UIF, and TERS. The SIU has revealed that about 600 government employees had fraudulently benefited from the TERS compensation. The payment benefit was meant for people who were unemployed during the pandemic. Zodwa Xesibe is the SIU's acting national investigator.
We as the SIU extracted revealed that UIF paid approximately 57.4 billion rand to at least 240,000 entities. So we then, the way that we dealt with this investigation, it was mainly a phased approach. We started with then the officials who benefited from the scheme.
The Social Security Agency, SASSA, says it's making progress in migrating from its gold card to the Postbank Black Card in Makhanda in the Eastern Cape today. It says it wants to ensure that more than 400,000 beneficiaries migrate before the end of next month. The aim of the initiative is to enhance eligible beneficiaries' access to social services. Beneficiary Ndombozuko Pongolo has welcomed the switch.
I feel great because I'm changing my card today to my bank account, since we are no longer have a nearest post office here in Makhanda. So I think it's going to be easy for me to access my new card with my bank account. So I'm no longer using the stuff.
The National Human Settlements Department says some flood victims in Durban have been moved from a community hall to temporary emergency accommodation. The department says in a statement that 47 households have been moved to the new accommodation site. It says it is doing so in a joint operation. It's their provincial counterparts and the eThekwini municipality. The households, mainly from Lamontville Transit Camp in the south of Durban, were victims of the 2022 floods were moved are now in a community hall in Chatsworth. Minister Thembisi Melane is expected to visit flood-hit areas in the province next week. Recapping the top story, owners of food outlets including tuck and spaza shops in the Region G municipality in Johannesburg says some of the requirements for the registration of their businesses are complicated for residents of informal settlements. I am on Delambana for SAFM News, headlines at 1:30.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
It is Donald featuring CC with Landela on this one. That's how we kick off the show on this fine Friday afternoon. Hopefully you are having a great day, wrapping up a wonderful week and a fabulous February it was. It was short and sweet, straight to the point, exactly how we like our Februaries to be. And we're getting ready to usher in a brand new month filled with all kinds of possibilities as of tomorrow. This is the wisdom of one of my producers who's going into the new month with a renewed perspective of hope and inspiration and all that good stuff. So hopefully you'll also be carrying that through as you will close the chapter of February and welcome March tomorrow. We're closing the week that was, and on this show, we like to do that by having a more arts and culture focused Friday, and today is no different whatsoever. We're going to actually be catching up with Donald in the first segment of the show today for hashtag Full Access. We're just going to be catching up on him, with him on life, on music, on life, and all that good stuff in between. Not to be confused with singer Kaya Mthethwa, but visual artist Kanya Mthethwa, who's a multi-award winning jewelry designer, is going to be in conversation with us. And we're going to find out around Kanya's participation in a brand new exhibition that is going to be staged at Fada Gallery. And it should be an interesting one as well. It's an exploration of identities and the resilience of the African memories. So we'll get to have that conversation in a bit. On the other side of 2 o'clock, you've probably been seeing these promos around, right? It's been a long time since I've seen a production that's been promoted so much. It's called Ben Made It. It's a riveting story of resilience, science, and survival. So we'll be in conversation with the director and the cinematographer on that. Still more to come, though, on the show, and we'll let you know exactly what else is on the agenda today. Hey, it's 1313. If you're a believer, you might want to take the moment to make a wish or set an intention. 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line, and 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
We are not protected. Our borders are porous. And they're porous because you, the politicians, have decided you want a Mickey Mouse Defense Force.
Right. What do you make of that?
Well, I'm afraid that everything that the Surgeon General said there is factual. There's no argument there. It needed to be said, and people don't always like what they hear, but the ones who don't like it are the ones who made it the way it is, and that's the politicians.
Vicky Krief, who is the South African National Defence Union's National Secretary.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, we are catching up with musician Donald now. And of course, Donald is quite the force in the South African music industry, having debuted with his debut album, Train to Love. He's gone on to give us so many, debut singles, Train to Love, I Deserve, and Denial. And he's gone on to give us so many albums and, of course, radio hits since he's coming into the industry. And weirdly enough, for some reason, I realized that I've never sat in full conversation with you. We've conversed when you've had a show, you've had a project, but not really a full let's get to know Donald. How are you doing this afternoon?
Hey, Bridget, how are you?
I'm good. And yourself?
I'm awesome. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for the time. We appreciate it very, very much. Let's rewind back. Because you've been in the industry now for what some might call a New York minute, which is a very long time. And let's rewind to the genesis of the dream for you. Was music always the ultimate sort of path, the ultimate goal?
Not really. At some point it became, but initially that was not the plan at all, because I think for me, for the longest time, singing was just something I do because I'm good at it, and I really enjoy doing it. But I just didn't see myself one day being this, popular musician, because I was looking at the people who had come before me, and I didn't see anyone like me, type thing, right?
Yeah.
In South Africa, generally, within our South African shores. So I always saw people that sing like me, or that are very similar to me, more in the US industry. And I was like, in South Africa, no one would really, like an artist like me, because R&B wasn't really as, as popular at the time.
Mm.
So, to be quite honest, me having a full-on career in music was a really huge surprise.
Okay.
But there's a reason it eventually happened, because every single time I met certain individuals, they gave me the hope that, you know, one day I could be this guy, you know. And you know, people like Malaika, the group, I met them at some point while I was playing, because I used to play football, by the way. That was the one thing I thought I was going to do.
Were you any good?
Wow. I actually was. I was on the way to playing professional football. I played for Vets University, and I also played for Jomo Cosmos at the time.
Oh, okay.
Under 19. So one of the times I was on my way to practice at Jomo, I actually met Malaika, and I was a huge fan of them. And I basically went up to them, you know, introduced myself and told them I was a big fan. And I also told them I could sing. They asked me to sing on the spot. I thanked for them on the spot. And pretty much I would say that's the day that my life changed, because they went so crazy. They literally adopted me from that day.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, and I was with Malaika for a while, while you know, still being unknown. I was with Malaika for a really long time. I was one of their proteges, and once in a while, if they needed a replacement for Ubongani or for Ujabu, I would be the guy to come in and do some of the shows with them. So yeah, I think for me it was I would say a combination of moments that made me become this guy, because that every single time I heard someone say, yo, you really need to take this music thing seriously, it kind of made me really believe in myself.
Now, was this before, or where was this in the timeline of you signing with DJ Cleo? Because your sort of deal, your recording deal with his Will of Steel imprint came around 2008, right? It wasn't a very long marriage, but that's round about the time.
So this was actually before I got my recording deal with DJ Cleo. I met Malaika first, and you know, and I was just there with them. I was doing backing vocals. I was a replacement sometimes, and then Jabu had a dream of making me a solo superstar, basically. So I used to record songs with him as a producer. He was my producer at the time. Actually, none of those songs ever saw the time of day, by the way. But I had a full album that I recorded with Jabu from Malaika. But yeah, so this was just before I met Cleo. I met Cleo sometime after I started working with Zonke, because I started working with Zonke as a backing vocalist.
Yeah.
So I basically kind of went into the music industry and started working within the music industry, but as a backing vocalist.
Gotcha.
And that is how I met DJ Cleo. He invited me to the studio. We made one of the songs for one of his albums, and I can safely say that is where professionally as a recording artist everything started, because after I did that song with him, he called me back, I think 3 months later, to offer me my first contract.
Now, the interesting thing is, right, because you said that growing up, you kind of didn't see a place for the kind of musical artist you were. And then you meet Cleo, you sign to Will of Steel, and then you release, a debut album under Will of Steel. And that album actually wasn't received very well. Then I wonder in that moment, because that could either be a moment that affirms you're thinking about maybe this is not the way to go, or it's a moment that then ignites a fire to say, in fact, I'm going to create the avenue for myself. Tell me, what was the turning point for you, where obviously you've been successful and you've been at it for many years after that, so you didn't throw in the towel. What is it that made you continue?
I would confidently say the moment I realized the album wasn't being received positively, or let me not even say that, because that's actually not true. The album was received positively. It just wasn't a big hit. It wasn't. It never really became known, if I should say. If you go back to that album to this day, it still sounds amazing. And in fact, one of the songs that introduced me to this industry is actually a classic right now, and it's in that album. It's called Know You Better.
Okay.
I Want to Get to Know You Better. That song, if I sing for you right now, you would know that song, but you probably didn't know that it was my song. That was the first ever song that I dropped, and that was in that album. And I will say that moment told me that I could do it, that maybe I wasn't a record deal type of artist.
Okay.
So being with Cleo for a few years made me realize that I'm actually the type of artist that wants to be in control of their own vision and their business, and all I need to do is find like-minded people and create a team for myself. But I needed to be the one to head where the vision is gonna go. So I went to Cleo and I asked him really nicely to release me from the contract. And I explained to him that I didn't think what we were doing was working.
Yeah.
And I was getting a little frustrated. And all I ask is for him to release me so that I can do this on my own. And I was also very open with him about that I wasn't interested in signing another record deal with anyone else, that I was going to go at this on my own. So I started a record label that same year after getting my my clearance from him. The record label is called The Exclusive Sounds.
Yeah.
And immediately after I started that record label, I think 3-4 months later, I recorded a song called I Deserve.
Yeah.
The Love I Know I Deserve. And 6 months later, that song was one of the most popular songs.
Changed everything. I mean, that song literally changed everything for you. You know, and it's become probably your, you know, we speak of artists' seminal works and seminal records. And I think I Deserve in sort of the discography of you, that becomes that song, which is interesting because a lot of artists internationally, you know, it's kind of like the curse of people who make music. People will have a great debut album, an incredible debut album, and then they'll have a sophomore album that tanks. You know, and it's the curse of chasing the first success. And for you, it almost was like it was the reverse. That gamble on yourself with your sophomore album led to I Deserve, led to Denial, led to the songs Over the Moon, to the things that people know you for, the things that made Donald.
Yes. I will say what has really helped me over the years, you know, with those type of curses that you're talking about, is I immediately getting into this thing, I already knew all I wanted to be was a storyteller. And what I knew was that I was never going to be an artist that chases a hit. All I wanted was just to make beautiful music, beautiful songs that people are going to relate with. And whether the songs become a hit or not, I knew that there are certain circumstances, you know what I mean, that either allow a song to be a hit or not. It doesn't mean it's not a good song, you know. So I never wanted to be attached to that, you know. I just wanted to be in love with my music so that I can, when I'm on stage, because I'm more of a live act, really, more than anything. I'm an artist that you want to see on the stage, because that's really where the biggest passion of mine comes in. I can perform a song that you've never heard before, but if you see me perform it, it's going to touch you one way or another. And that's the type of artist I've always wanted to be, because a hit-driven artist, unfortunately, isn't sustainable. You know, because when you don't have a hit, then no one isn't interested. So I think for me, that was that. I really just wanted to be that guy that makes beautiful songs, love songs that people can relate to, and yeah, I mean, I think that's really been the secret for me to continue doing this. Is I don't emotionally attach myself to being number one. I just want to make beautiful music. When I feel like people need to hear it, I will release it. And that's also another reason why I wanted to be independent, so that I can release whenever I want to. And you know, just being lucky to have someone like DJ Cleo as your mentor is everything, because he allowed me to be able to do that. And I've been doing that literally from the Train of Love album in 2012 to this day. All the albums I have released and dropped under my own label, The Exclusive, and that's 8 albums counting this year. And I can only really be grateful for the support that I've received from my fans and everyone in South Africa.
It's interesting that, very early on, you already sort of had a clear vision of the kind of artist that you wanted to be, right? Because a lot of people also don't understand perhaps the importance of knowing that as an artist. When you listen to greats, great producers, great artists from all over the world, there are people who'll tell you that, for instance, when a Jay-Z speaks about when he first met Rihanna, when people keep pestering her about her new music, and you go, if you listen to Jay-Z talk about the fact that when he met her, he knew that first and foremost she was a radio hits artist, and secondly she wasn't a singer-songwriter, in the sense that her career would have longevity like the Adeles and the Beyoncés and whatever, and so he had a 3-album timeline. Maximize, release, maximize, dominate radio, and then use that to jump off to other things. And here you are also saying, almost like a Sade that says, I don't make music to chase hits and radio play. I make music that is relevant to me and my audience at that specific time. And so there's that understanding of the kind of artist you are, and obviously you've communicated that to your audiences in one way or another, that they appreciate that about you.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I mean, and I you know what, I would always really, more than anything, I would always advise that artists lean towards that more, because that has less expectation. Because expectation is one of the things that really put artists in depression, in our industry. When you don't have that hit, you really feel like you're a failure. And for me, that doesn't make any sense. If you're a true artist, a song not being a radio hit cannot make you feel like you're a failure, because then what is the real definition of your artistry? Like, what are you doing artistry for? Yes, we do know, there is an element of the business, which is obviously really important, because at the end of the day, you're giving your all and all your time and effort into this, so you need to make some sort of a living out of it. However, that can't be the number one driving force why you do this, because then that is where things like chasing hits and chasing trends and losing yourself and trying to do what everybody else is doing will come into play. So for me, I'm always gonna advise newer and upcoming artists to lean more towards just be you, make the music that makes you happy, fall in love with the music as much as possible every time. Every 3 years, find a way to fall in love with it all over again. Because without the love for the music, it's really going to be difficult for you to push this thing. It's a very emotional business, whether we like it or not. You can't do it without emotions.
Absolutely. Donald, let's break there for a quick second. We're going to take the headline news with Ondela. We'll come back and we'll continue our conversation with multi-award-winning, chart-topping South African artist Donald is in conversation with us for hashtag Full Access. It's just gone 1:30 on The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga.
Thank you, Bridget. In the news headlines, some spaza shop owners are calling for an extension of the registration deadline. They claim that they have encountered problems every time they've attempted to register their businesses, and this has caused delays. Today is the last day for the registration of the businesses. The weather in KwaZulu-Natal is expected to be clear today and going into the weekend. This after 11 people were killed following heavy rainfall, which caused flooding over the past 2 weeks. And a Japanese woman who unexpectedly kissed K-pop boy band BT's Jin at a fan event last year is under investigation by South Korean police. Police have called for the woman, who is currently in Japan, to come forward for questioning on charges of sexual harassment in a public space. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
Sang malume libiteng libo mangwane don't wanna wait no more. Kwaze kwalula ukugcina isithembiso sami. 'Cause I promise today is the day. It's a malume libite ngibo mangwane. I don't wanna wait no more. Kwaze kwalula ukugcina isithembiso sami. 'Cause I promise today is the day the Lord has made. Mama lilizele bakikiza bomakhelwana ya indlela wamukelekile ekhaya. Mama lilizele bakikiza bomakhelwana ya indlela wamukelekile ekhaya. Mama lilizele ya indlela. Isengubeni emhlophe kwa. Amakhasi eBhayibheli ayaphekwa. Bahlanganisa mina nawe, dali forever and ever. Hoyohlukanisa mina nawe, dali uyokheswa forever and ever. Mama lilizele bakikiza bomakhelwana.
So it is a brand new offering from Donald, featuring one of my favorite vocalists right now, Lwandle Nkulu, and Xolwa on this one, Indlela Enhle. And this is coming from the album Train to Love 2. And this was your birthday gift, I presume, to your fans, because you released it on your birthday, the 7th of February this year.
Yes, ma'am.
Lovely. Okay, now what is it when we work on a new project? What is your process for you? I'm always intrigued to know, what sparks sort of and opens the floodgates to a full body of work for different people.
Whew, that's such a great question, man, and also a very difficult one at the same time. I think for me, geez, it's just always been about how I feel at the moment. If I feel like, I guess now it's time, then I go into it. Because it's really a very emotional process.
Yeah,
very emotional, very spiritually. It can be draining also to make an album, because you also just don't want to make songs and put them together. You wanna do something that will depict the moment, that you want people to feel those emotions, of where you are right now. And that's what really I've always felt an album is. It's just emotions at the time captured.
Yeah.
So that when you go back 10 years later and listen to that album, you really understand where this artist was at that time. So for me, the process is a really difficult one, but very necessary also, because it's also, it's a time when I'm at my most powerful, I believe.
Yeah.
Because spiritually I'm really connected, and it's such a beautiful process, man. I really love making albums, and I think that's probably why I'm on my 8th album, with this one.
Do you isolate when you're in the writing phase? For instance, I know Simpiwe Dana relatively well. We're in the same friendship circles, and she isolates when she's in the writing process. She sort of separates herself from the rest of the world and distractions and things of that sort. And there's a predetermined handful of people that gain access to her spirit at that particular time, but also for every stage of the time that she's in process.
Yes, so socially, yes. Socially, that's the only way I'm able to do it. And even my recording sessions are very, very private. I can really only work now. I really can only work with my co-writer and the producer we're working with at the time. I find it really difficult to be in the studio with like a lot of people and stuff. However, if you listen to this album, you realize I worked with a lot of young people.
Yeah.
There's some really amazing artists. I mean, there's Lim Crazy in this album. There's Bassi in this album, and unfortunately, when you work with young people, you kind of have to adapt, Nyana. And some of those sessions with this album, I had to be in a space where I was with a couple of people, and also kind of giving myself an opportunity to learn too, because the kids will always have a new and fresh energy about them, and sometimes you wanna gain something out of that because it really makes you a better artist. So I collaborated a lot in this album, so I did give access to a couple of collaborators in this album. However, there are certain songs that are very personal that we had to be alone for us to really create this and get the best out of it.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think that would be part of the thinking, right? If you are wanting to cross-pollinate generationally with younger creatives, you also have to allow room for them to stretch you in, even in the ways that are uncomfortable, like how they process looks. So if my process means I have an entourage of 5 people because that is what my energy needs, you must make room for that as well, and it might bring something interesting to what you're trying to do.
100%. You have to be an open-minded artist. Being an artist is also about being open-minded a little bit. I mean, yes, there are certain points where you feel like, okay, I think I've been stretched enough and I can't stretch it better. So for me, I had to do that. But also, there's also an element of fun that comes into that you kind of have to adopt. And I had a lot of fun, especially with the more younger collaborations I did in this album. I had so much fun, and I was able to see how they work and also fascinated so much by some of the newer ways of creating that I get to experience here.
Do you ever listen to an album and I know we've got to wind down our conversation, but the other thing I'm always envious about, particularly for musicians, and musicians who write R&B and write ballads and things like that, because I love to listen to the poetry of lyric. And I often go, oh man, isn't it so nice to be able to have a Dear John, Dear Diary moment and have that catharsis process and expel all of that out without people trying to rail it in, because it is part and parcel what your music is about, working through all your emotions. Because in other creative disciplines, you try and do that. Oh, I try to post about my heart. I'll have my whole PR team saying, take it down. Take it out. Why are you opening the floodgates to that? But musicians have the freedom to just talk about how everything went awry and how everything got broken and all the pieces are coming back together again.
It's unfortunately we also have the element of the entertainment industry, which can also be toxic at times. And one has to find a way to always protect their energy as much as possible. As much as you want to express, I find safety and solace in expressing myself in my music. A lot of the things I really go through and most of my real feelings are in the music, because I know the minute I go and post, threads on social media, there we go. You know what I mean? It's everyone internalizes that in their own way, and before you know it, it's literally taking a life of its own. I try to really protect I protect my energy as much as I can, and I think for me the only outlet I can ever allow public into it's through my music, and however way they interpret that music, because I'm an artist, people are not going to interpret it exactly how maybe I did. It's always open for interpretation, and that's the beauty of it, But also there's also the element of entertainment too. You also just want to be in entertainment, because at the end of the day, that's what I am. I'm an entertainer.
Very true.
entertain. You wanna just have fun sometimes. Doesn't always have to be that serious too,
Yeah. Donald, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for the time. Much appreciated. And all the best with this new project. May it be as fruitful and successful as the rest. Train to Love 2 is now out. Wherever you buy your music, you can get it.
During Ford Blue Sky offers, you can get a new Ford Territory Ambiente from just $6,199 per month, including our optional service plan. Only when financed through Ford Credit. 10% deposit, prime list 5.25%, 40% residual. Visit your trusted Ford dealer today for Blue Sky offers, where our Ford Family Guarantee comes standard. Limited time offer while stocks last. Ford Credit is a registered credit provider and an authorized financial services provider. T&Cs apply.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide with me, KG Mweketi. Because where words fail, music speaks.
Mzansi Africa. SABC Sport is searching for talented football commentators. Are you knowledgeable and passionate about football commentary? Are you a great storyteller of the beautiful game?
That's why they're very good in controlling the ball and keeping it in minutes.
Submit a 2-minute commentary clip in your South African language of choice to commentator at sabcsport.co.za. Also email your full name, surname and contact details. Closing date is on Friday, 7 March 2025. Only shortlisted candidates will be invited for the second round of auditions at SABC Studios in March. SABC Sport. For the love of the game. The intelligence of varsity students will be witnessed on the field of play between UJ ladies and UCT ladies. They both want to kick off the new season with 3 points. Who will pass this test with a distinction, UJ or UCT? This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the varsity derby between University of Johannesburg ladies and University of Cape Town ladies the Sunday 2 March at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC 1. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We're catching up now with multi-award-winning jewelry designer Kanya Mthethwa, not to be confused with Kaya Mthethwa, as if you do a Google search, that's all that comes out. And Kanya is forming part of an exhibition that's happening with the Faculty of Art Design and Architecture at Fada Gallery, and they're presenting an exhibition by Kanya Mthethwa that celebrates South Africa's diverse indigenous cultures. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm good. And yourself?
I'm fabulous. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time. Much appreciated. Let's get into, your work and your discipline. Jewelry design, an interesting creative platform, I think, for a lot of folks, and probably one that's still lesser understood to some degree, especially by folks who maybe aren't, people who look at it from the lens of, okay, well, I'm not big into buying jewelry, but it's more than just that.
Yes, it's definitely more than just that. Within the field of jewelry, there's what we call high-end jewelry, which is basically more what most people are familiar with. The engagement rings, so that, and then there's contemporary, which allows you to have more artistic expression when you're doing the work. So it can go from alternative materials to using precious metals as well or not. So there's two different fields within the jewelry field.
And you know, what is it about that particular art form that held your interest? Because when one searches, you know, your sort of digital footprint, and these days we quickly go to an artist's Instagram page to have a look and a feel for who they are. It really is more than just jewelry for you. There's a sense of history and heritage there.
Yes, that's mainly informed by the fact that for like my PhD, I focused on indigenous knowledge and indigenous knowledge research methods. So I look at work that speaks to that. So I'm always finding inspiration in indigenous knowledge and basically trying to almost make my work an archive, if you will, of like the different cultures and what we're about and celebrating that and really just giving indigenous cultures and like basically speaking for Black people for a change where we become the voice of our own words. So that's where it comes from.
Yeah, and in fact, isn't it part of just our identity as Africans? Like jewelry for us holds so much more meaning than just something that is decorative, right? And if you chart the histories and the lineage of Africans throughout the continent, jewelry is a very important part of who we are and the story that tells of our existence.
Yes, absolutely. It's not just us, you know, focusing on the design aesthetic when it comes to jewelry, but it does hold like symbols, certain symbols, and it represents even our past. Because if you think about beadwork, for example, beads came in as a form of trade, but we then turned that into a way where you are able to tell the different cultures. For example, Xhosa beadwork is different to like Voodoo beadwork is different to like other types of beadwork. So we turned that into something that we now own and celebrate, and we created our own like patterns, our own type of jewelry designs, and it's unfortunate that that is always associated with just as being cost and not something that's of value, whereas the skill that goes into making pieces that have beads is high, you know, and the time it takes to make that also is also a form of design. It is design, in fact, because when you're making the work, you are considering the patterns that you're making and whatnot. So it's very much part of our heritage and how we adorn ourselves and how we like signify basically of our who we are and where we come from in our lineage, and it ties back to our lineage. So yes.
Why, you know, let's talk about the importance perhaps of us sort of upholding these customs, you know, for us upholding these skills, because they are dying in modern society, and there's a very small niche of Afrofuturistic creatives that are desperately trying to bring these cultures to the fore, you know, the culture of aesthetic through, or the culture of identity rather, through aesthetic. Why is it so important for us to ensure that these don't die? You know, when you talk about beading, I was thinking about Umam Beauty, who's based in KZN. I forget her last name, a master beader.
Yeah.
And she's one of the few remaining master beaders, you know, of that caliber, who's also desperately in her little village trying to pass on the skills to other younger creatives.
I think the importance of it is that I'll base it off of my experience being in the jewelry department and teaching students who come from different backgrounds. You find that a lot of some of the students come in with those skills, like beading skills, and to them, they also don't view it as something that is supposed to be considered valuable, and that's like a ripple effect of how we view beadwork. But when they actually make the work, you realize that, hey man, like you're actually doing some amazing stuff, and the skills that you have are similar to what, you know, Abomam Beauty has. But they see it as something that, you know, we're just doing it to like decorate. If I'm going to in Sangini or whatnot, I'm part of the maidens, and this is how we decorate our how we adorn our bodies. So it's more of people not also believing, our own people not also believing in the value of it. And you find that a lot of people actually know how to do it. It's just that they don't see it as something that should be celebrated and seen as valuable. And the importance of that is that there's so much linked to it's linked to who we are. And if it's linked to who we are, it also trickles down to, our communities and what we believe about ourselves as a people and how we view ourselves as a people, you know. And if we celebrate even the skills that we have, then we are basically saying, like what we do is valuable, and also who we are is supposed to be celebrated and not something that we kind of like shy away from or basically say, oh no, we shouldn't celebrate those aspects of us. So yeah.
Absolutely. Just to read a little bit of a post that you posted in 2023 on your Instagram, entitled Dear Creative, and you say there, do things in a way that honors the creative source from which all of your endeavors emerge. What an incredible reminder.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It's so important to, I think as a creative, it's so easy to forget why you're doing what you're doing. And it's also because it's such a difficult industry where in most cases what you are selling is not a need for some people, and you are creating work and it's an expression and an extension of who you are. And it's these ideas that sometimes keep you up at night. And then you put out the work and then sometimes it isn't received in the way that you thought it would, but it was important to you. So it's that remembering why you're doing what you're doing and honoring that, so that no matter what happens, even when you don't have the ideal outcome, you still, are able to move forward and create because you're honoring your talent, you're honoring your gift.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's been such a pleasure getting to know you, Kanya, and looking forward to how your creative gifts unfold in a way that really pays homage to who we are as Africans. This was a multi-award-winning jewelry designer, Kanya Mtetwa, and Kanya is actually doing a walkabout tomorrow at 11 o'clock. So if you find yourself in the vicinity of UJ's Father Gallery, or you can make it to UJ's Father Gallery, she'll be doing a walkabout, and that's where you get to really interrogate the creative works and the process, as well as the mind and the thinking behind all the pieces that artists present to you, and you can engage them one-on-one. And if you missed that one, there's another on the 8th, and then the final one on the 10th, and all of this, of course, backing up her exhibition that is being presented at Father Gallery alongside the Faculty of Art Design and Architecture. Let's take a quick pause, and then we come back and we quickly catch up with Brenda Sakalaridis, who is NSA's artistic director, and they're having an open day. So we'll find out all about the open day for 2025.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, with me, KG Mweketi.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
A quick catch-up with Brenda Sakalaridis, who's the NSA's artistic director. And I say this every time I speak to her. I've been speaking to her for the last couple of years now, even on my previous platform. They're probably one of the most passionate school moms I've ever met. How are you doing this afternoon?
Well, I fear I'm just as passionate as I was last time we spoke.
Are you good?
I'm very, very good, thank you. Yes.
Fabulous. So you guys are hosting the National School of the Arts, are hosting a open day. It's happening tomorrow. Tell us about this one, because you're inviting prospective learners and parents to come through and experience the school.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful day in the year. It's our annual big marketing day. So prospective students and parents come into the school. They have a chance to engage with our educators. They can discover a bit more about what it takes to be an NSA student. And also, they're able to see our current learners in rehearsals for some of our upcoming productions. Because March is a very rich, full month and we have beautiful productions to share with the public, not just tomorrow, but obviously in the weeks ahead.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful opportunity to really have an authentic experience at the school, and we open our doors and we long to discover and meet our prospective new learners.
Well, listen, it's been a long run for the NSA because you've got a 50-year heritage, and that obviously speaks volumes for the school, for any prospective parents that who have creative children and want to find them in spaces such as the NSA.
Absolutely. The test of the pudding is in the eating, isn't it?
Yeah.
So our alumni go on to excel. And I think it's very important for parents who might be a bit reluctant to sort of send their children off into the creative sector because, a lot of people obviously see it as an insecure world. However, this school will educate and nurture the creative thinker, and the creative thinker is going to flourish right across the sector. Corporate South Africa is going to say, please come to us. We need those thinkers. As we said, they don't just think out of the box. They don't have a box. They have a wonderful, vast horizons, and at any time of day, we probably have 500 solutions for a creative problem from our learners at the school. So it really is important to let parents know that this is a school of academic excellence. It's not one or the other. Arts and academics share the spotlight here, which means the children go off and pursue vastly different fields, from arts to architecture, chemical engineering, medicine, you name it. Our children are equipped to go and conquer the world.
And in recent years, you've had an amazing alumni because, Langa Mavuso comes from the NSA, Zoe Modiche comes from the NSA, our very own head of entertainment here at SABC, Lala Tuku comes from the SABC, from the NSA. So, like you said, you've got a robust, rich heritage of successful creatives who've gone on to find success and cement themselves in various avenues of the creative sectors.
Absolutely. And if parents come tomorrow, we can engage in those conversations, and if there's any kind of insecurity, we will definitely diminish that and destroy that because this is a wise choice. And also, if you've got a creative child at 12 years old who says, I want to go to an art school, I want to nurture my creativity, you've got a brave child. Bring that child to us. We will give that child a safe environment and make sure that they're academically astute and artistically well-nourished.
Yeah. Just as we wrap it up, Brenda, in our final 45 seconds, who should be attending? What grades, are we looking at? 6, 7, and what else should parents know?
Well, absolutely. Grade 6 and grade 7 is perfect age group for children to come through tomorrow. But also, there is the child currently in high school that's looking to perhaps change. We can still take learners right up to grade 11. So if there's a child who's not quite happy in high school, needs a creative space, bring the child to the school and let's see what the potential is for a possible audition, to get into the school.
Wonderful.
So any parent of a creative child and any current high school learner who perhaps would like to pursue a specialist arts education, National School of the Arts, School of Specialization, publicly funded school, and recently the top performing school in our district, 99% pass rate, 85% bachelor passes, and we were awarded the overall best performing school in our district in terms of the quality passes that we received. So we're a great choice.
Wonderful. That was Brenda Sakalaridis, NSA's artistic director and a former NSA mom herself. Her kids went to NSA. So just recently, in recent years. So she's best placed to tell you all about the school. Open day is happening tomorrow, 1st of March from 8:30 until 1 o'clock. So 8:30 until 1 o'clock. That's the National School of the Arts, and it's right here in Braamfontein. It's just gone 2 o'clock. Ondela standing by with the news.
Thank you, Bridget. Top stories at 2. Spaza shop owners ask for an extension and UIF loses billions to fraudulent claims. For SAFM News, I am Ondela Mbana, and a very good day. The South Africans, some spaza shop owners are calling for an extension of the registration deadline. They claim that they've encountered problems every time they've attempted to register their businesses, and this has caused delays. Today is the last day for the registration of the businesses. President Cyril Ramaphosa had ordered the registration of the businesses in November last year in response to issues of food safety. This followed cases related to food poisoning in which at least 20 children died. Shop owners explained their challenges. The South African Social Security Agency, SASSA, says it has a contingency plan in place should Postbank fail to meet the March 20th deadline. This follows Social Development Minister Sisi Tolashe's acknowledgement that Postbank did not effectively plan for the crisis surrounding the replacement of SASSA Gold cards with Postbank's black cards for social grant beneficiaries. Beneficiaries have until the 20th of next month to change their cards. SASSA National Spokesperson Baseka Litsatsi says beneficiaries who have not changed their cards by April will not be able to access their funds. He says the money will, however, remain in their accounts.
They can only get it at post office. We don't want people to go there. We know what will happen. You'll squash people, there'll be snake queues. But secondly, they have introduced what is called cashless or card cashless withdrawals, something which works like your e-wallet or your cash send. We don't want people to go there. We want people to be able to transact at the time they want to transact. You know, if you go to a post office and get all your money, just 10 or 50 steps out of a post bank, people get mugged. We don't want to push people to that level.
Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Mamoloko Kubai says the Constitution remains the cornerstone of human rights in South Africa. Kubai has been speaking at the official launch of Human Rights Month underway at the University of Johannesburg, Soweto campus. Kubai says access to justice is a fundamental human right that should ensure that individuals are able to obtain fair and effective remedies for their issues through legal systems.
Courts. We must have our services accessible to the people. So it's about physical distance. Where these courts are located, they must be closer to the people. Class made a lot of strides in terms of jurisprudence, how the courts have been able to assist us in interpreting, for example, the rights. I was talking about the queer community, where same-sex marriages are enjoying the rights. Traditional leaders who are female inherently, who previously would not be chiefs, today can be, because the democracy has been able to do that.
The weather in KwaZulu-Natal is expected to be clear today and going into the weekend. This after 11 people were killed following heavy rainfall, which caused flooding over the past 2 weeks. The South African Weather Service has not issued any warnings. Forecaster Wiseman Dlamini says there is a 30% chance of rain over the entire province today. He's given a similar forecast for most parts of the province tomorrow.
Going to remain fairly cloudy conditions for most of today, and then for tomorrow, we do expect 30% chance of showers and thunder showers in most parts of KZN, except in the extreme west, where we're expecting 60% chance of showers and thunder showers. Please note again that we don't expect any rain over the Kanyawuta district tomorrow.
A Japanese woman who unexpectedly kissed K-pop boy band BTS's Jin at a fan event last year is under investigation by South Korean police. Police have called for the woman, who is currently in Japan, to come forward for questioning on charges of sexual harassment in a public space. The incident happened during the K-pop idol's first public event in Seoul last June, which saw him hug 1,000 fans. But instead of just hugging the star, the woman appeared to have kissed his face, with Jin responding by turning his face away. Recapping the top story, the South African Social Security Agency, SASSA, says it has a contingency plan in place should Postbank fail to meet the March 20th deadline. I am Mondilambana for SFM News Headlines at 2:30.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Poor man, sindiyaphuma ndifihle kwingozi nentsha nayo yonke imimoya thatha indawo njengosomandla sindisa impilo yami kwababantu abalunganga kuba namhlanje ndibonile uba silwe nenyama silwa nemimoya namhlanje ndibonile uba asilwe nabantu thina silwa nemimoya asilwe nabantu thina asilwe nabantu thina silwa nemimoya asilwe nabantu thina asilwe nabantu thina silwa nemimoya 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 ezinye izinto azilungi noma ungazama zibanjwe emoyeni ezimfazwe sizibonileyo aziqali namhlanje ziqale emoyeni ngoba emoyeni kuyaliwa emoyeni 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 kuyaliwa asilwe nabantu asilwe nabantu thina silwa nemimoya asilwe nabantu thina asilwe nabantu thina silwa nemimoya 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 silwa nemimoya.
It's so crazy that in 2025 we still find people who police people's accents and how they speak. It's the wildest thing for me that in 2025 you're not listening to the content of the discussion and the conversation, but rather you're policing the nuance of the accents that people are speaking with. It's crazy for me, in a global world where we consume so many things, and so many things influence ultimately our being and how we spoke or how we speak and how people have spoken, and how people will speak in years to come. It's the weirdest thing. We just got commentary about it on the back of my conversation with Donald, and I find it so bizarre, that there are people who have opinion on people's accents, because essentially, there is no right or wrong accent. There is no accent that determines the superiority of knowledge or experience. There is, people just speak how they speak. If you're intrigued by how people speak, okay. If you're not, okay. It's the weirdest thing. But anyway, we're getting into another conversation now. So, yes, there was a public and private response to the commentary around accents. We're getting into another conversation now, and we're talking around Ben Made It, which is a riveting story of resilience, science, and survival. And we're going to be talking to director PJ Makosholo, who is the director of this project, and Chuck Manganye, who is the cinematographer. We're going to find out more about this groundbreaking cinematic experience. Ben Made It. How are you doing? Perhaps let me start with you, Pielo. How are you?
Me, I'm great. I'm getting a little bit rained on, and I love your conversation about accents. I love that conversation.
Because you get it all the time.
Well, also, I think it's we're in a new space where we need to start defining what we mean by language, and whether language is just a transport of ideas, and if accent comes into it, what are we saying?
Yes.
So I love those conversations. So shout out to you, first of all.
So you're being rained on at the moment, which lets me further know that you are out on set somewhere doing something fabulous.
Oh no, I'm having the best thing ever happen. I'm having a burger with my offspring.
Oh,
so that's even better than everything else. I just had to step outside because it was noisy inside.
Yeah. Well, listen, we appreciate the time because we know that daddy's offspring time is very important. Sorry, Pielo, they're also busy writing some crib note on the side there for me, so and me completely. So talk to us about Ben Made It. This film. I don't think I've heard of it, or perhaps I've been living under a rock for the last couple of weeks with the anticipation around it.
All right, cool. First of all, be at ease. You're not living under a rock.
Uh-huh.
We are having our world premiere on the 13th of March at the Joburg Film Festival.
Okay.
And the story itself is about, really at its basic core, it's about a man just trying to save his child. It's about a man just trying to make sure that, in a world where, there's a bit of a disease-riddled situation, that he can find a cure for his child. The story of Ben is that he's a man who, like many South Africans, doesn't manage to get through school, but he's still got the skills that he was learning. But somebody takes pity on him, he finds a job in, the lab as a janitor kind of thing. But this happens as, they find out that, there's contamination in the water, and people start dying around him. And at first his mother, then his wife, and then all of a sudden his child gets sick, and he's near where the cure could possibly be, so he tries to figure out how to save her. And in that, we start going through that discussion of what happens when a man goes up against the system. And also in the same vein, we're having a conversation about what happens when a precious resource like water starts getting contaminated. Who gets the water? How do we act when that starts happening around us? And what happens with corporate greed with that, how pharmaceuticals could hold back things for their benefit, and how somebody could possibly find a way of taking advantage of suffering to make profit.
And what I like about that, and we've just made a small, this is what they were trying to whisper in my ear, that there's been a small guest change. Instead of Chuck joining us, Tapelo Molefe, who is the writer and producer of Ben Made It, is the one joining the conversation now. What I love about that, is that the story seems to be anchoring itself as well on global and domestic themes. When we talk about the conversation around the scarcity of water and, the threat to this very sort of this life-dependent resource. It's one that's not just isolated to the people of Hammanskraal, but it's a global conversation about what happens when the taps run dry.
Absolutely, ma'am. And Ndadetapelo will carry on with this conversation, but Ndadetapelo comes from Randfontein, which is a mining area. In that area, what happens to the water when, it comes from the mining thing, it carries things around it, which seeps into the area. So even other water sources start getting contaminated. We're dealing, and also, there's access to water in that space. So Ntate Thapelo is really at the coalface of it, and what it means to actually deal with water scarcity. But I'm sure he can expand a bit more on that.
Yeah.
But something that I forgot to talk about is one of our goals, and I think because there was a lot of fathers and youth fathers on our crew, and one of our things is that we'd really like to change the image that black men have as fathers, and it would be really nice to start seeing a lot more black men who are active on television, who are positive and who are trying hard and doing the most in spite of. And that was one of the goals that we tried to do. But I'm sure that Thapelo will be able to take care of the rest.
Thapelo, I feel like this is your cue to jump in. How are you doing?
I'm good, Anima.
I'm fantastic. Thank you much. This is your cue. Literally, PLO has thrown it on you to expand on us and just those two important elements of this particular film.
Yes, no, I think that PLO has touched on almost everything. But like in a nutshell, we just came out out of COVID, and now with this film, we just trying to throw a dart and say to what if we go through the same thing with water, So, and the whole film is all about creating dialogue, for people to wake up. Like not so long ago, like for the past 2 weeks, when you read newspapers and everywhere, we've been having issues of water everywhere. That there's no water this, there's no water there. So I believe this film came at the right time where this actually water is a serious problem happening in our lives, in Gauteng basically, and basically the rest of the world, So yeah, I think that the PJ touched a lot of things. But like another thing that you're trying to do as well with this film is the message of fatherhood, There's fathers, we are being given names, but then now having fathers who can go against all odds, go through everything to save like their families. It's something that we need to take away from this film as well, so that we still have fathers who care. We still have fathers who are single parents raising their kids, and they're out there. But it's that the problem, like with them, they're not too vocal about this thing. So we're saying, like with this film, let just people come, enjoy, and let's create dialogue with this film as well. But Tati PJ covered almost everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a universal theme. It's not just whether we're talking fatherhood and the face of black fathers, it's not just relegated to South Africa. Blackness worldwide. And the face of black fathers worldwide, something that people can resonate with. And again, whether we're talking the scarcity of water and the politics around water, it's something that, Cape Town was counting down to day zero. Johannesburg has got its own conversations about, what happens when our taps run dry. Durban has conversations around water pollution and everything that surrounds that, and so forth and so on. The conversation is very universal. I want to come back and I want to talk about exactly that, the diversity of storytelling, and where stories are moving from a South African context and becoming more globalized in their nature, though anchored in the essence of our experience as South Africans. It's just gone 2:20. Let's take a quick pause.
Dis-Chem's Beauty Fair is here. Enjoy unbeatable savings on skincare that loves your skin as much as you do. Glow, hydrate and radiate from expert-approved derma cosmetics to everyday essentials. We have the perfect match for your skin and your budget. Our skincare specialists are on hand, ready to help you find the best for your skin. Don't miss Dis-Chem's Beauty Fair, happening now. Stock up on skincare, cosmetics and fragrances at prices you will love. Offers valid until 16 March.
The Blue Diamonds want to display superior performance and shine with victory in their opening match of the new season. But the newcomers, Ezemvelo ladies, are on a mission to demonstrate why they deserve to be in the Big Girls League. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Gauteng tackles KZN. Catch Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. JPW ladies versus Ezemvelo ladies. The Sunday 2 March at 11:30 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Every person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends. You need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We're catching up with Thapelo Molefe, who's the writer-producer on the project Ben Made It, alongside Pielo Makosholo, who is the director of this project, sounding like a riveting story. And I was saying, gents, you know what I'm loving about the films that we're telling right now in South Africa, including Anile Mdoda's Oscar-nominated docuseries now, is that we are telling, you know, South African stories that are rooted in the South African individual and collective experience. However, they are also centered within a global context and a global dialogue. And that says a lot about how far storytelling has come in the country, and recognizing how diverse it is, but also at the same time, in its diversity, that it also has that ability to be localized with an international appeal. Thapelo, your thoughts on just how film and storytelling and story making has evolved to be broader than just the stories that we told 20 years ago about apartheid and oppression, and which are still relevant stories, but there's more to our experiences as people.
Yes, I think from our day-to-day living, you know, there's a lot happening around us, and I think right now as filmmakers, we are at a point where we can freely express ourselves, and especially working on projects like this, which are funded, like your NFS and JFC, you know, because of now we are given that room to express how we feel, you know. And the nice thing about our filmmakers now is that the aim is not just only to attract our local audience, but to compete globally, because of you'd be shocked internationally. So they want to watch our content, you know, and from us. Because of normally our thoughts are always told by people from outside. Then now we're at a point where as filmmakers, like right now, we've got the platforms and we've got the ability to tell our own stories the way they are, you know. Same with the story, like Dr. Pielo said, you know, I come from Randfontein, you know, I come from Joburg, and this is what I think is happening, you know. And it's beautiful because of now I'm one of the voices who was part of this story when I was writing it. Then came as well Utabang Matumet as well. Then combined our minds, myself, Pigeon Tabang, we just sat down with the story and we just had to break it down. But I think we are ready for the world, and the world is also ready for us. That the PJ can also add on there.
Yeah. Pielo?
The reason why it's starting to sound like why we can resonate a bit more is globalization, right?
Yeah.
Because for once we've realized that there's people on the other side of the pond as well. It's not just some mythical kind of people that do something better, you know? So that's the one thing. The second thing is that the human experience is universal. Sometimes the events that happen, they might differ here and there, but at the end of the day, we're all stuck with the Maslow's. You need to take care of food. You need to take care of security. You need to take care of health. So as long as that is there, then we'll always have something common. Where what used to happen is because before globalization, we could all be different people because we just didn't know each other. And we couldn't see each other. But now we do. We can see each other on TikTok. We can see each other through everything. So I think that's what's allowing us to start being able to do that. But I think what's really been beautiful, and using TikTok as an example, is that we've also started allowing ourselves to be honest with what we're talking about. So we're talking about things that matter to us specifically, because then somebody else will say that, hey, that kind of matters to me, but not in that way, but I hear and see you. You know? Which is, I think, and I've really got to thank the youth for that, because before that we had gatekeepers that would even say things like, oh, why must you tell an apartheid thing?
Yeah.
Which takes me to my third thing, which is that we forget that film as a medium, one of the things that it does is that it's a healer, not just to us that make it, but to the people that watch it as well.
Yeah.
And it's an archiver, and it's a process of archaeology. So sometimes when we're told not to do this and that, it's as if we've healed from certain things and that those wounds aren't open and that they don't need to be attended to. It's as if we've had conversations that still hasn't been unspoken, that has to still be spoken to. So I think when we start talking about that, because I still have an apartheid movie in me, by the way, and that's purely because I still haven't healed all the way from it.
Yeah.
And I need to be given that space. So I think as we go and we start talking, like we should also remember that part of what we do is spiritual work, you know?
Yeah, I think everybody has an apartheid movie or two or three still left in them from many, from many facets. For as long as we still have people who police how people speak, we'll have plenty of stories to tell, because it means that there's so many things that we still don't understand and appreciate about each other. And when you speak about films being a healer, I wonder, and perhaps you could tell me this, I wonder, when it comes to consumption, I was listening to a podcast, Kaya Langa and Trevor Noah this morning, and Kaya was saying, funny enough, the biggest readers, the biggest buyers of books in the country are white readers, and yet they do not buy books written by black authors. So how do you begin to appreciate a black experience? How do you begin to appreciate the other person's life if you do not read about it? And I wondered if that translates to film as well, and who goes to watch the films, and whether or not they're open to engage stories that are told from a different lens from themselves and what they know.
Let me speak from the black experience,
Yeah.
I went into a bookstore yesterday to actually buy a book for my daughter, and like when I got in there, there's like a huge Afrikaans section of books. Not a single section of African language books. So that means it's almost that bookstore, as if that bookstore is saying that there's no Chivenda writers, there's no Sesotho writers, there's no Zulu writers. Yet we can still celebrate Mazizu Kunene and what he did with Shaka. And I know other writers that do that. So I think when we start discussing platform, we have to talk about accessibility, and then we have to talk about, like, there's somebody out there, especially the guys at market, who have no experience with our lives, that say, oh, but they don't read, they would never watch that. Because they're the same people that also make us dumb down our movies and make them a little bit lesser than in terms of like what we want to deliver, because, oh no, they'll never understand that. It's too complicated. Yet you can turn around and then find us out there making numbers for it. So for me, it's like it's difficult because, there's no cinema in Soweto at the moment. So we can't have a platform conversation yet.
Yeah.
Carlton Center's closed. So we can't have a platform. So when you look at the majority of black spaces, we don't have access.
Yes.
And then the places that have access in terms of platforms and TV stations, they still undermine the intelligence of the black audience. So I don't know how to deal with that, because at some point, somebody has just got to sit back and say, hey, man, these are the guys that used to watch all these blockbusters, gave them the numbers, because we still are the majority in this country. So why is it that we can't approach them with a level of intelligence and like with this and lose this kind of Bantu education style of looking at the black audience? You know?
Gents, I mean, I feel like I've just opened the gateway for a different conversation and we fast run out of time, but perhaps we'll pick it up at a later date. For today, thank you so much to both of you, Tapelo and PJ. Please go back and enjoy the burger before you have a disgruntled young person saying that you are forever working even on Burger Fridays. But the movie Ben Made It is, of course, selected to be part of the Johannesburg Film Festival. That's where it's going to be having its world premiere come the 13th of March at the 7th prestigious Joburg Film Festival. And that was director PJ Mokosholo and, of course, writer and producer Tapelo Molefe. It's just gone 2:30. Ondela standing by with the headline news, and then on the other side of that, we're going to get into our kids' programming for the Friday afternoon, and then we'll come back and continue our conversations.
Thank you, Bridget. In the news headlines, Afrikaner lobby group AfriForum has hit back at criticism from President Cyril Ramaphosa that AfriForum is sowing divisions within the country for their visit to the U.S. KwaZulu-Natal Premier Taminduli says the province has set a target of securing investments worth 4 billion rand in the 2025-26 financial year. And the SABC News has reliably learned that a senior United States of America's official in South Africa has resigned with immediate effect. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Hello friends and welcome to Nali Bali. Do you know that you can do anything you set your mind to? It takes action, it takes perseverance, it takes facing your fears and most likely getting out of your comfort zone. Nothing worth having comes easy in life. That brings us to today's story called The Lion's Whisker, written by Natasha Simon. But before we listen to today's story, let's all get up and... Tabo grew up on a farm with his mother, father, brothers and sisters. Everyone helped with the work on the farm. But the truth was that Tabo didn't really like it. He couldn't bear doing the hard farm work under the scorching hot sun every day. Tabo's father, on the other hand, enjoyed the hard work and loved the farm. He could not understand Tabo's rebellious spirit. One day, after a heated argument between father and son, Tabo took what little he owned and left the farm to follow his dreams in the city. Many years went by, and Tabo began to feel a deep longing for his family, especially his father. He regretted the way he had left the farm and longed to make peace with his loved ones. But the fear of facing his father kept him from returning home. Although Tabo searched and searched for advice on how to mend his relationship with his father, none of the ideas he had gave him confidence to return to the farm to face his father. One day, Tabo's friend said,
"Hey Tabo, have you heard about the wise man who lives in a flat only a kilometer from the city center? Apparently, he has a special knowledge and mystical powers."
That's perfect. Maybe he can give me some advice on how I can regain my father's favor. Thank you, dear friend, for letting me know. You've been of much help,
said Tabo. The next day, Tabo visited the wise man. He poured his heart out, sharing his regrets and his earnest desire to make peace with his father. The wise man listened carefully to Tabo's story and he said,
"To fix what seems unfixable, you must set off on an extraordinary quest. It will not be easy, but there is a way to succeed. Your task is to bring me a whisker plucked from a lion's chin by your very own hand. You must do this while the lion is alive. There is no other way."
Tabo's heart sank at the thought of what had to be done.
Man, no, this is very bad. Is this man insane or something? I have to pluck a whisker from a living lion's chin? What? That's impossible.
Tabo cried to his friend. He assured him he can do it. Although the thought of the task filled Tabo with dread, his longing to make amends with his father burned brighter than his fear. So early one morning, Tabo set off on his quest. He left the city and found a place to stay in a small village on the edge of the nature reserve. From there, he sought out a lone male lion. Eventually, he found a cave and saw a lion inside it. Next, he had to gain the lion's trust. Each day, while keeping a safe distance, Tabo whispered soothing words into the wind. He watched and learned the lion's habits, what it liked and disliked, and the moments when it seemed least tense. When Tabo came up with a plan, every day he carried a careful wrapped piece of fresh meat with him. When he saw the lion, Tabo laid the meat on the rock, making sure that the lion saw that the gift was from him. In the beginning, the lion responded with fierce growls that echoed through the wilderness. But Tabo did not give up, returning day after day with meat and soothing words. Eventually, the lion's growls grew softer. He also allowed Tabo to come closer and closer, until Tabo placed the meat within reach of the lion's mighty jaws. Finally, with his trembling hands, Tabo carefully plucked a whisker from the lion's chin. With the lion's whisker firmly in his grasp, Tabo returned to the wise man. Bending low to the ground with tears of gratitude, Tabo handed over the precious whisker. He sat back, waiting for the wise man to begin a ritual with the whisker. Instead, the wise man turned and tossed the whisker into the crackling fire without a word. Tabo was so shocked and confused.
Oi! Are you insane or something? Why'd you do that?
He gasped.
You know, I risked my life for that whisker, mister.
The wise man looked at him calmly and replied,
Tell me, Tabo, is it easier to calm the heart of a lion than that of a beloved father? Does a father not want the love of his son more than a lion wants meat?
Tabo felt the truth of the wise man's words in his heart and thanked him for his help. As Tabo walked away, he knew it would be hard work to mend his relationship with his father, but it would be all worth it. He realized that with time and a humble heart, he would succeed. And so we come to the end of another Nalibali story time. Today's story was called The Lion's Whisker, written by Natasha Simon. Did you know that reading and telling stories to children at home can help them do better at school? If you want free stories to read to your children or for your children to enjoy on their own, visit Nalibali website www.nalibali.org or Mobi site www.nalibali.mobi. You will find stories in 11 South African languages, as well as tips for reading and sharing stories with your children to grow their potential. Also look out for the bilingual Nalibali Reading for Enjoyment supplements with great children's stories and activities available in newspapers. Nalibali, it starts with a story.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, with me, KG Mweketi.
Get your payments done with the utmost security and convenience when you purchase a TV license now. With our new secure payment systems with a one-time PIN, OTP feature, and the choice of receiving your OTP via SMS or email, you can ensure prompt and secure payments. The additional use of capture will protect you against spam and automated data attractions. With TV licenses, you can enjoy watching all your favorite shows or movies that matter to you. Get yours today. Visit www.tvlic.co.za.
Masandawana say they're in the business of winning matches, but Amakhosi have a big agenda to stop the log leaders. Naturena confronts Tlurko. Kabuyelo battles it out with Golden Black. This is the Betway Premiership. Witness Mzansi's clash of giants. Mamelodi Sundowns FC versus Kaizer Chiefs FC. This Saturday, 1 March at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and at 3:30 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the
SAFM would like to thank everyone that submitted their entries for the playwriting competition. The announcement of the top 10 and winners of the competition will be announced on the 3rd of March 2025 on The Talking Point with Kathy Mutlatlana. Stay tuned to SAFM and find out who is the lucky winner. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You are listening to The Full Circle.
All right, our last conversation for the day. We are catching up with Ludwigwazi Ndlazi, who is the co-owner of Lit Culture. And this is a space where books and culture intersect in a meaningful way beyond just the mainstream literary circuits. But we'll find out more from Ludwigwazi about the space and how it all came about. How are you doing this afternoon?
Hi, Bridget. I'm good. Thanks. How are you doing?
I'm awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go back. Let's start at the beginning. When you first opened the doors to this space that you say is more than just a typical bookstore.
That's true. You put it so well. Lit Culture Books is situated in the Museum of African Design in Maboneng, at number 281 Commissioner Street, and we also found a second home in Brixton at the Breezeville Cafe at 29 Chiswick Street. But it was really started because we wanted to really find a way where books and culture could intersect meaningfully, and we put it so well. It was founded on the belief that literature should be more accessible, more engaging, and deeply connected to its surroundings. It's also almost a call to action for readers to exercise their own agency, because we truly believe that literature continues to grow us as individuals, but it's also important because knowledge as a form of resistance and liberation is what we need in our lifetime today. So that's how Lit Culture came about. Right now, we are looking at an independent bookshop, but also a hub where we offer carefully curated selected books across African and diasporic literature. We've got political theories, we've got philosophy, history, we look at music in terms of jazz particularly, and African sonic traditions. So there's a range of literature that's available for to widen the palette for those readers out there who say they're looking for something that speaks to them, that makes them feel deeply connected to their surroundings.
Yeah. Ludwikazi, I just want to try and switch us to a different line, just to see if it's a bit more clearer. So as my producers do that, we're just going to just hang 10 for a second as they try to just switch her to a different line so that we can have a lovely conversation. And I love what she says about, the space is about seeking a knowledge as a form of resistance. And that's needed in our culture today, because I think that also ties in to a conversation we had earlier in the week with a political commentator. Oh, his name escapes me now. I think it was Ungo. We were having this conversation earlier in the week about the concept of black consciousness and having to foster that again in today's society. Okay, we've got Uludwegazi back on a different line. You just said something of interest now. I was just sharing with my listener, and you were saying that it's a space where one goes to seek knowledge as a form of resistance, which is needed in our cultures today. And I'm paraphrasing, right? But it sort of takes me to a conversation we had a few days back with a political commentator, Ungo Dube, who wrote a piece in IOL about this is the time, this is the now where we need a reawakening of black consciousness. If we talk black unity, if we talk, galvanizing a black people in one force, whether a South African black people or diasporic black people, the concept of blackness needs a collective reckoning with black consciousness, and using different things, including creativity, literature, etc., etc., etc. And this seems to me like a space where all these ideas converge.
100%. And what we've also identified is that from an institutional perspective, there's a shift that's currently happening, and we are also privileged to be able to play our part in fostering this kind of work to become a priority. We have collaborated with institutions such as UNISA. We've got the UJ Arts and Culture, the Center for the Less Good Idea, UNISA Art Gallery, and UKZN Press. And these are institutions that have really also made it their business to prioritize literature that's going to our people. In a conversation we were having yesterday, we had the incomparable Maxwell Baloyi for a solo piano performance, and he was in conversation with Bongani Madondo, revered writer, right, in the space. And it was such a moment of reflection, because in that conversation, a lot of the themes that would come up would be how blackness feels to you right now, what your consciousness is, your activism is. So all of those different components. We had a lot of conversations around identity, healing. And I think that when you look at South Africa and where we are, and you look at the arts and the literary community, we are starting to see a deep need for that kind of connection and those sorts of conversations to be a priority. So that's why we invite everybody to come through to these spaces when we do curate discussions outside of the selected books or selection of books that we have. There's also discussions and events that we will have, which also are a sense of us exercising our agency.
Yeah. There's a movement by readers, particularly readers of color, whether we're talking black, colored. I'm always so reluctant these days to use the term colored, because I think, that demographic is also trying to reposition their identity within South Africa. Those of Indian and Asian descent, marginalized peoples. There's an appetite. If you follow a lot of book clubs and you talk to a lot of authors and readers, there's a consciousness to seek out stories, whether past, present or future, but stories that are reflective of who we are, were, and where we are going. And let's talk about also how that relates to the folks who walk through your doors. And also the diversity, because I bring this up. I listened to a fabulous conversation this morning of Kaya Langa and Trevor Noah. Now I'm bringing it up twice on the show because it was that fascinating. And one of the things that they spoke about was Kaya mentioned that if you walk into bookstores, you don't necessarily, white people are the biggest consumers of literature in the country, but they're not consuming black stories. And that speaks to a particular understanding also and a willingness to seek out experiences outside of themselves. How do these ideas come together? How do these conversations come together when on the one side you've got black people who are consciously moving towards finding themselves in literature, and on the other side you have, white readers who are the biggest consumers in the context of South Africa, but not crossing the divide to also locate themselves in other races' stories?
And this is why we speak about this intersection of the arts and politics. You reference politics, you reference contemporary life as we live it. So these different narratives become so important even in our curatorial process, because when you look at titles that start to unpack decolonial thought, revolutionary movements, black consciousness, it's a challenge regardless of where you fall within the spectrum, right? And it becomes your responsibility to pursue those thoughts, and engage them a bit further. In our inaugural year, in 2024, we celebrated the centenary of Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe through the launch of a book by Professor Luvuyo Tondolo, right? And basically this offering reaffirms the commitment to honoring voices. And I quote this because I reference this session specifically because it is so important for us to be sober-minded about our engagement with regards to our politics. And when we do enter these spaces, we were talking about how it sometimes feels like such a social experiment because human beings are so nuanced. There's so many layers to readers, and their preferences. And because of these very politics and these pressing issues that we face on a daily basis, it is so tempting for us to follow a specific narrative, because it would probably serve us best in that instance. But what we want to do and what we're learning also with this experience is that there's different voices and there's a deep need for a market to be serviced. We have found that lit culture is also the home for academics, but it's also the home for your avid readers. It's the home for those who really want to find a new hobby, So who are we to impose our ideals and our ideas on who the reader is in South Africa? So we are collecting those insights and really starting to understand the South African reader in relation to the global landscape, right? But also it is very important for us to then say there are texts that we are getting. There's this rare collections and editions that were otherwise not accessible. So how do we get them to those who are able to continue to foster these conversations to happen on a greater scale? So this one becomes a bit difficult because there's too many thoughts and too many conversations happening there, and rightfully so, because for a democratic country we are finding ourselves, and so is that reader on this journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about that collection, by the way. You kind of allude to it about the rarity of some of these texts. And that's part of the allure of your space as well, is that you include very rare and out-of-print collections. And there was a time where books were coveted. There was a time where books were considered collectible artworks in themselves for many a reason, whether for the text contained within the pages, whether it be for the cover art and the story of, whether even some folks collect for the essence of the history of certain publishing houses. When you look at the robust history of some of the publishing houses in Zimbabwe, for instance, who've since shut down many years ago. But there is a beautiful thing about realizing that there is a value to books that surpasses the price that you pay for a book.
100%. And I'm thinking about the conflict that most of our customers always face. So you'll see us at a theater near you or at a concert for that matter, because we take books to the people. And one of the things that they will say is that, oh, I feel guilty because I bought a whole lot of books last time, but I haven't gotten the time to read it. But when you look at the books that they're really talking about, it's rare collections like your Staff Rider. You know, you will find Chimurengas, you will find Botsotso, which is some that you want to have in your library. This is material that you can share generations upon generations, you know. We're become the place where people want to start gifting their loved ones, and we encourage that. So when you look at this range that we offer, it's political theory, we've got philosophy. Again, I think when we look at critical race studies, what I've really loved about lit culture is also us being able to then activate these conversations beyond just selling you the book. So we can sell you the book, but we can also curate a discussion for you. You know, we can stock up Writing the Wicked, but you can also find Niren Tolsi at Breeze Blog having a conversation to engage you more about this work that you have. But yeah, you do find people who are really conflicted. Am I just a book collector or am I really a book reader? And I'm like, you know what? Collecting is just as important as reading, but it's that sense of agency that we really want to inculcate, that culture of reading and deepening our understanding and really truly reflecting on how far we've come, even in our own activism.
Speaking of Naren Tulsi, you've got an event happening today, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we are deep within preps right now, so that's why I was excuse me for my connection. We are getting ready. It's happening this evening from 6 o'clock. We are in conversation talking about writing around the wicket, race, class, and history in South African cricket. Look, I don't think we need to really even get into detail with regards to Niren's skill when it comes to just the craft itself. Award-winning journalist, in conversation with Oscar Masinyana, and I really look forward to that discussion because we know how I almost want to say this is a space where we want to create a safe space for people to truly reflect on how far we've come, especially with regards to South African sports and cricket particularly, you know. But also what I love about the book is that he continues to explore these themes and look at these deep moments of reflection at necessary points in our lifetime, and to say, truly, have we transformed, or how far are we willing to go in the conversation of transformation? So I would urge you to come through and join us this evening at Breeze Block, 29 Chiswick, Breeze Block Cafe in Brixton.
Wonderful stuff. Ludwagazi, thank you so much for the time this afternoon, and hope you have a robust conversation this evening. That was co-founder of Lit Culture, Ludwagazi Ndlazi. And of course, that event is happening this evening with Naren Tulsi, if you want to be a part of it. And it will launch his highly anticipated book, Writing Around the Cricket, adding yet another rich chapter to his program of literature and cultural events. 6 o'clock this evening at Briz Block Cafe, which is 29 Chiswick Street. From myself and my team, it's almost time for us to make way for Ashraf. But let me remind you this, because we've got to talk TV licenses, right? So did you know that paying your TV license isn't just about the legalities of it all, but it also helps fund local productions and creates jobs in the entertainment industry? And that means more epic dramas for you, more exciting sports, and news that keeps you all informed. So when was the last time you checked your license? You can visit www.tvlice.co.za and make sure that you're up to date. After all, it's your screen and your story. Have a fabulous weekend. I hope you get all the rest that you desire, entering the new month on a positive note and ready to bring about, whatever your heart desires for March. Inshallah, God willing, we get to do it again on Monday.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365, Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
Top stories at 3. AfriForum heats back at Ramaphosa's criticism and Spaza shop owners ask for an extension. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana and a very good afternoon. Afrikaner lobby group AfriForum has hit back at criticism from President Cyril Ramaphosa that AfriForum is sowing divisions within the country for their visit to the U.S. AfriForum and Solidarity have embarked on a trip to meet with the Trump administration in what they have described as a fight for Afrikaners. Ramaphosa says that AfriForum's visit to the U.S. is not a nation-building process. CEO Kali Krill has disputed this, saying that it is the ANC and Ramaphosa who are dividing the country.